Welcome back to the discussion, Infrastructure Considerations in Your Missions AI Strategy, sponsored by Pure Storage and NVIDIA on Federal News Network. My guests today are Kurt Smith, Vice President and GPU Data Center Architect for Accelerated Compute Product Group at NVIDIA, and Mike Weissman, the Vice President of Americas for Public Sector at Pure Storage. And Kurt, I wanted to get your thoughts on something that we left at the break here, is just considerations for data scientists and really what they are going through at this juncture. You know, what kind of considerations should we be mindful of as we go forward with this AI journey?
Before the break, I thought Mike did a great job of explaining the role, the strategy, how the tech stack fits into the data science team. The only thing I might add is that I think one piece is, at the heart of science, and at that heart of science is experimentation and testing. So as it relates to the data science and how they fit into the overall larger organization, it means to me that integrating AI into the product design early in the design cycle is important. And then incorporating user feedback and usability testing of those features as you go from concept to design and into the production. And then to have feedback loops where as you get the feedback from the users or however the model is working or not working, that they're able to be integrated into the overall flow of building the products.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. And, I think we're just going to keep on moving along here, getting back on that deep learning track here. When we think about AI, what excites you about deep learning application? Mike, we can turn it back to you if you'd like.
Thank you, Jory. Yeah, deep learning is a machine learning technique that leverages an algorithm to perform classifications directly from unstructured data, which include images, text, or sounds. Deep learning requires large amounts of expansive, unstructured data sets, as well as significant amounts of computing power to deliver timely and accurate results. All of this equates to the need for a lot of storage capacity, which obviously excites me. I think a lot about the deep learning, I'm really thinking about vast amounts of unstructured data that is being used to solve some very interesting problem statements within the federal space. Once you have the infrastructure in place and the skills to leverage it, it becomes a function of data acquisition, curation, and abstraction in support of data science in the pipeline. You need a workflow that can handle large amounts of data, move it, process it, and service it quickly. So as an example, imagine millions of satellite images required to develop a national intelligence application that accelerates decision-making capabilities for forward deployed warfighters, as an example. Another example that we see in the local space. So my son's actually a firefighter and an engineer for CAL FIRE. So as a first responder driving to a call, think of building out an application to route optimization for first responders. So coordinating efforts with utility services in support of disasters like the forest fires we've had out here in the West, or an extreme flooding application for obviously flooding that happens in the Gulf Coast every hurricane season. Both of these applications require massive amounts of unstructured data to train and develop a production-grade AI. What interests me is how we create an easy-to-use and end-to-end infrastructure that can quickly process this data and produce a meaningful outcome that helps save lives at home and abroad. For us, it's about accelerating and development of augmented intelligence and data fusion capabilities for public sector organizations.
All right, great. Thanks for that, Mike. And Kurt, any thoughts there on this space?
In terms of what excites me about the deep learning applications is, I think it's that human augmentation piece that Mike talked about. I mean, we live in this environment, for example, I love his example about a firefighter going to a call, the routing optimization, the communication necessary to get first responders to the right place. The data that's coming in is massive in its complexity, and it's all happening very fast. What I think of as one of the most exciting areas about deep learning applications is that they are able to process the data that they've already been trained. These models have been trained in the past based on what's happened in the past, and they can process that complex data environment and help direct the resources to exactly the right place in as fast a way as possible. For me, it feels to me like we're on this era, we're marching towards an era where the AI that we have augments the human mind in a way to make better decisions a lot more quickly. And that's an exciting time to be in.
Excellent, excellent. And I just want to underscore some of those points there. Just the end user augmentation of data, being able to have that data at their fingertips and really, empower those end users to do more and see more in real time. I think that's huge, and I think something that we should probably also underscore. Kurt, just keep going with your thoughts here. Is just the idea of a human in the loop in all of these decisions, just not just being an endpoint in all of this, but part of the overall loop of what's being done here.
I mean, one of the common phrases you hear in public sector and certainly military agencies is the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. And where I think the AI makes such a huge impact is in the orientation, identification, classification phase, so that where the human sits, I don't, it's going to be a long time before we don't have any humans anywhere in the loop, because we don't have that kind of AI. We wouldn't trust it from probably an ethics point of view for a very long time either. So there's going to be a human around. And in today's complex, multi-layered, fusioned sensor environment, if you look at what is going on today, there's people looking at 5 different computer screens and trying to synthesize in their own minds what is the right next step to take. What we can do for that person who needs to make critical decisions is we can reduce the signal, we can increase the signal to noise ratio, provide them the relevant information they need to make the best decision right now. And that would be the same, whether it be a warfighter or a first responder in, in fighting a fire. And kind of going back to what the bulk of our conversation here today was about, is that model that we're looking at, that we're making decisions when it's inferencing. In order for it to be that smart, it needs to have all that infrastructure back in the data center for the storage, the networking, and the compute, in order to be able to train up these really large models that then get the real-time data and make the right decision. That's the exciting part. That's the part that I think makes the world a safer place across all of the public sector and all of the missions that I know that Mike and I work with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I think to underscore another big takeaway in all of this is an IT problem, it's a data problem, it's a people problem, and you really have to have all of those synced up to really move the needle on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw it out to whoever wants to maybe expound on that a little bit more, but in terms of that change management, that is itself a tall order. Kurt, I hear you, kind of nodding along here.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to expound on there?
Well, I mean, I think I see 4 pieces to what we're trying to do. I think what I call this is creating the AI centric enterprise. Building that, if you want to take advantage of AI, I think you need to change how you have your mindset and your culture, and you need to think of yourself as building an AI enterprise. And you're right, part of it is IT. You need the infrastructure to support the life cycle of this type of digital work. a platform for the accelerated compute to train the large AI models, the fast storage, and then good networking to make that happen. The teams need to have a commitment to training the workforce on this new way of thinking about data and different types of models and neural networks. The organization needs to use data science everywhere, across all of the company. They also need to know the limitations, the need for more data, for more accurate data, explainability, knowing how the AI makes the decisions. And then I mentioned that the heart of science, culture of experimentation, where you get to put the features in early and incorporate user feedback. And then finally, the fourth piece is you need the leadership vision. The top of the organization needs to believe in the power of AI to transform the experience of the people that are executing the missions. Those are, so infrastructure, basically data everywhere, experimentation, vision from the top.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for that, Kurt. And, Mike, I'll turn it back over to you. This is, of course, a lot of ground that we're covering here, but as far as takeaways that our audience should have from this conversation, is there anything you want to foot stomp? Is there anything you want to highlight in terms of, the, pillars, as Kurt put it, in terms of what agencies should keep in mind in terms of AI going forward?
As mentioned earlier, I think it comes down to obviously building a culture around leveraging the data in place. And for us, really accelerating the time to insight and reducing that cost of curiosity. We understand that it's really about our customer's customer in the end, and how we can keep the folks in the field safe and help them to execute their mission.
All right, very good. Thank you for that, Mike. And Kurt, you did a masterful job of kind of hitting those pillars in your last response, but I'll give you an opportunity to add any other closing sentiments if you'd like.
No, just thanks to you and to Mike for the opportunity to be part of a conversation on these topics. These are ones that are near and dear to my heart.
All right, very good. Well, thank you to the both of you for taking the time to outline all these key considerations for agencies. My guests again today are Kurt Smith, the Vice President and GPU Data Center Architect in the Accelerated Compute Product Group at NVIDIA, and Mike Weissman, the Vice President of the Americas and Public Sector at Pure Storage. I'm your moderator, Jory Heckman, on the discussion Infrastructure Considerations in Your Mission's AI Strategy, sponsored by Pure Storage and NVIDIA on Federal News Network.